Hello, gentle viewers. This is Indian, welcoming you to a Let's Look at Pro Strategy Football 2022. Back when the channel was on hiatus, I had reached out and said, hey, I'm thinking about playing a football game. What do y'all think? And a lot of you said, take a look at this game. And I did. I've played a full season of this and part of a second, and I feel pretty confident that I can talk about the game and how it works and help you make your own decisions. So I've already created a brand new season, and this is with the Browns. Excuse me, not the Browns, the Cleveland Dogs. Because one thing this game does not have is a license from the NFLPA. So that means that there's no real players and there's no real teams. Although I strongly suspect there's probably mods to fix that if you're so inclined. So this is what happens when you create a new season. And let me first just share the stupefyingly incredible number of rules you had to change. It's pretty incredible how much detail there is in this game. If you think that there should... if you think that you should get to the 20 after a touchback, you can set that. You think you should kick off from the 40-yard line, that's fine too. You can decide where to set your PAT line. You can really customize the game the way you want them. You can have used the college rules, although I certainly don't recommend that. That could lead for a very, very long game. Once you load up a career, you see this screen. It tells you who your first opponent's going to be. You can look at your schedule for the week, and you can even click this button to send the entire week. I don't want to go too much into the features here because I don't think they're that important to understand the game. I just want to give you an idea of the depth and breadth of things you can do. Before I say anything else about this game, an incredibly important point that I have to make. This game is made by one human being named Carrie Bates. One. And although I definitely have some concerns about the game that I'll definitely be talking about during this video, you have to keep that fact in the back of your mind. To come up with something even as great as this game is, and what it does really, really well, with one freaking person is absolutely insane to me. Carrie, if you're watching this video by some chance, applause, my dude. You did an incredible job with incredibly limited resources, and I'm just really impressed by that. You can change your depth charts here. Notice we are the Cleveland Dogs. Snort. And then you can look and see the various players that we have. The numbers are all accurate. For example, Curtis Shaw is clearly meant to be Baker Mayfield. Oren Carriage is quite clearly meant to be Nick Chubb. Jaleel Khalil is meant to be Kareem Hunt, etc., etc. This is all built into the game. The only thing they don't have is their actual names. This is also a great chance to talk about how they do statistics. It's very simplified, in a good way. It isn't anything like a Madden where you have 40 stats for every player at minimum. Here you only have these specific stats that you will need in order to make a decision. In case you don't know what a particular thing means, you can click on the user manual, and it'll open up an explanation when you get there. I don't think it works on a specific screen. I think you have to click on a player and then you can hit it. So what all these different ratings mean? We have durability, and this is universal. Every player has a durability rating. We have strength, which is used for a number of things in this game. I actually don't know why the user manual isn't working there. Quickness and speed. So quickness is more like acceleration, your ability to make cuts, especially if you're a running back, things like that. Overall speed, fumble percentage. Notice everything is on from 1 to 10. 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest. This is not fumble percentage. The way I understand it, it would mean that 3% of the times that Curtis Schaub, as we'll call him, touches the football, we should expect him to fumble it. So if he had 100 snaps over the course of, let's say, a couple of games, we would expect maybe 3 fumbles. That's how I think that's calculated. I'm not positive, though. That may actually be based on the entire game, not a number of snaps. That's just me guessing. Leadership. Read is very important. This is a quarterback's ability to read a defense and make the right throw. One of the most important things about this game is you are not making the decisions. You're setting up the plays and you're trusting your players to get it done. That's very, very important. Completions and avoid int. These are based on quick, medium, and deep passes. Sorry, short, medium, and deep passes. Again, 1 to 10. Sorry, 1 to 9. 9 is best, 1 is worst. We go down to a running back. We'll see we have a lot of the same things, but not all of them. We have the addition of the receiving stat. Tight ends, same thing. You'll notice that it doesn't list blocking, even though obviously we know that blocking is incredibly important. That's kind of captured in the strength. So generally someone who's stronger is going to be better at blocking. If you watch NFL, you know it's not quite the same thing, that you can be really, really strong and be terrible at blocking and vice versa. In this case, though, I think it's completely understandable and acceptable given what we are talking about. I think that's perfectly reasonable as a decision goes. You'll notice for offensive linemen, they do list different blocking stats, whether they're better at run blocking or pass blocking, which all makes sense. I click on defensive depth chart. It's even simpler. Every player is based on whether they're better against the run or better against the pass. Here there's a bit more of a breakdown, reaction being very important, of course. And it's the same for both safeties, linebackers, and other DBs. Last, these look like stats. They're not. But this is what you should expect when you have a particular kicker doing a particular kick. So in this particular case, we know that he is pretty good in medium to short ranges. Once he gets beyond 40, he's a little bit less trustworthy. So the one thing I want to emphasize before we go any farther is this is what you should expect. This is how this game works. It is very deep, but it also cuts a lot of the fat. You can spend time in Madden going through 90 stats for one player, trying to make a decision between 2 players. This is much faster, and I think much better. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and go through a game, which I think is, obviously, it's what we're all here for. And I think it'll really help narrow down what you can expect from the game. Very important point before I continue. The game has awesome music. I just had the music turned off because it's quite loud. And unfortunately, there's no easy way to adjust the volume of the sound. I go back, click sounds up here. You'll notice that there's nothing really here. It's great music, though. I do recommend it, but it's important to be aware that there's no way to reduce the volume. So we're going to click on week 1, and you'll notice that my team is up at the top. And you always have 3 choices. You can sim through the game to see what would happen. You can watch the game, or you can coach it. And we're here to coach it. So we're playing the Kansas City Commanders, wink wink. And I have a few things I can decide on here. most importantly, I can change the game time. I can change the weather. You can analyze the game. And what it does, it lets you run sims multiple times. And lets you decide who you think wins. So I click on Run 1,000 Sims. It's going to take a moment. And here we go. It says that 810 times Kansas City won the game. Based on the Browns, the Dogs, as they are considered in the actual game. The last thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to click on Game Settings, and we're going to click on Coaching. That's fun. I'll be able to change it once you actually start the game, so let's do this. When you first play the game, I recommend picking Casual, but Expert is really what makes it better. And it makes it more interesting. So we're going to click on Expert, and it tells us what we need to know to start the game. It tells us that Cleveland has a good offense, a not so good defense, and pretty atrocious special teams. Kansas City has a much better offense and defense and much better special teams. So, already we know that because Kansas City won the toss, they get to receive. I hit go, and I get to pick my type of kickoff. I'm going to pick kick deep, of course, and we're going to hit go. We're going to get some crowd noise here, which is pretty exciting. And notice I'm not doing anything here. It's very
touchback.
It's very Tecmo Bowl-esque in terms of the graphics. I'm actually going to go ahead and turn the sound off. Select sound set. No, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and turn off the different sound just because it's quite loud. So this is what it looks like. I know that Kansas City is in the pro set, so this is accurate. This is what they're going to be running here. So the first thing I'm going to decide when running a play is I get to decide, do I think they're going to run or I think they're going to pass? This is Kansas City. I know Kansas City in real life is a pretty big passing defense. But because it is a pro set, I'm reasonably certain they might try to run. I can pick from different formations. And we're going to stick with the 4-3 because Cleveland doesn't have super great linebackers. I can shift my linemen any direction I like. And in case you don't know what one means, this will tell you here. We don't want to mess with this right now. I can pick my coverage. So that means if we do think there's going to be a pass play, I can change from man-to-man to 2-deep or 3-deep zone, which is how many people drop back. We're going to keep it as is, though. And we can pick who we think is most likely to run the ball. We can pick key on flow, which means that they're going to pay attention to the initial movement and go off of that. That's not always a good thing, though, and I think we're just going to leave it on normal keys. So I basically designed my play. The last thing I can choose is whether I want people to blitz. And in this case, I'm noticing that there's a very clear weakness on the left side of Kansas City's line. So having Wilson here blitz might be a good idea. You can also set the blitzing here, and it tells you who you can legally have blitz. So we are ready to go. I've made my pick, and I'm going to click go. And I picked, it was a run play. We got a 2-yard loss, an excellent start to the game. Okay, Kansas City is in a short yardage. This is likely going to be another run, so I'm just going to call the exact same play. But you notice that they shifted over a tight end to block. I'm actually not going to blitz at all this play. We're just going to hang back and see what happens here. And he actually dropped back to pass, and they caught the pass. So it was a pretty gutsy call. They called a very clear running formation, but passed out of it, and it worked out for them. So as you can see, this is basically how the game works. You can set the play any way you'd like. You can also click on this heart, and you can pick through a few designed plays, for instance, which is pretty cool. I generally tend to do all of it myself, but I can see why someone might not want to do that. With only one back, I think there's a fair chance it's actually going to be a pass play. So once when I click on pass, all these ratings change. This tells me who's good at defending and who isn't. And right away I can tell that my corners match up okay, but not great. I'm going to want to bring a little bit of extra heat, perhaps. I could have Cedric Schmidt blitz, but I probably don't want to do that. We're going to go ahead and just run a very basic man coverage and see how it turns out. And it turns out that they ran it, which is pretty silly of them, and it means that they're going to be punting. When they punt, you can pick heavy rush, watch for fake, or normal rush. The computer rarely, if ever, fakes, just like in real life, and we watch as they punt over to us. Okay. So on offense, you have a ton of flexibility, and this is where I think the game really, really shines. The first thing you do is you pick your base formation, and you have all kinds of options based on your coach's particular proclivities, and you can edit that as you like. For instance, Cleveland's head coach Kevin Stefanski really likes multi-tight end sets, and you can see that here. We can go some that are really good for running and some that are really good for passing. We're going to start balanced, we're going to start pro, and we're going to start with a running play. You'll notice we have a wide variety of different types of runs, including off-tackle runs, sweeps, and the good old fancy run up the gut. In case I want a sense of what Kansas City's defense looks like, I can look this up and see, okay, maybe running to the left would be a good idea, because their linemen aren't nearly as good there. But I'm pretty happy with how this works. I can have the fullback run the ball instead, if I'd rather do that. I can even change the direction that they're going to run on. So I'm going to hand the ball off, and we're going to click go, and we'll see what happens. And we get a very excellent run. Nice work. Now, thinking strategically, I just rattled off a really great run. What I could do is go ahead and run again, but let's try to get a bit sneakier. Let's keep this exact same set. This is very important in terms of tricking the AI, or anyone really. Let's call a medium pass play and use play action. Now I can see right here that Rudolph, aka Odell Beckham Jr., and whoever Kansas City's cornerback is here, this isn't an ideal matchup. And I'm also concerned because he's going to be running a post route, or maybe it's a corner route, I can't remember which is which. And there's a strong safety sitting right here. All this information is at my fingertips. Assuming they go with their base set, and I have no reason to think that they won't, there's not a great chance that there would be a completion here. It's going to be really tough. So we're going to want to think of other options. But let's say I'm really concerned about their pass rush here. I can tell my fullback to block. So he's going to drop back and do pass blocking. And let's say I want to mess with the AI. I want to have my tight end involved in this. I can change my tight end's route to square out. So the tight end's then going to run about 5 yards and he's going to cut to the right. Now all of a sudden, there's a chance he could clear out the safety and I could get a one-on-one matchup between my wide receiver and the cornerback. Or I could take advantage of the fact that they won't be likely paying as much attention to Sutton, aka Jarvis Landry, and I could throw to him instead. Let's go ahead and also put the running back in motion. Now all of a sudden this side seems really, really crowded, which means I can probably make him the primary receiver and have this work out quite well. Let's click go. And it was incomplete. That's okay though. We still have plenty of time. We can give it another try. And I think we'll go ahead and switch to Pro I. And we're just going to do a good old-fashioned run right up the gut. No muss, no fuss. It's only 3rd and 1. Let's try to get ourselves a first down. So, there's a penalty on the play. And it is defensive holding. I will accept that. And this basically gives you a pretty good idea of how the game works. Let's go ahead and try to open up a bit more. Let's try a nice medium pass play. Let's call it from shotgun. And let's go ahead and target Rashad Higgins, a.k.a. Jackson. And let's see how this turns out for us. Not that well. But we do get a penalty on the play, an incidental face mask. That's going to get us some yards there. Let's go ahead and call a screen. And I get to pick whoever I want to be the target of my screen. I'm going to pick Rudolph here. Try to get some passing offense going. And he got stopped instantly. Well, it looks like they're keying up to stop the pass because they don't respect my running, which makes me very sad. And we're gonna make them respect the run. We're gonna run a counter, and we're gonna swap it. Counter left, and then we're gonna hit go. And now I've gained a bit more yardage, and we can go ahead and attempt a pass play. Let's call 4 wideouts. Let's call a medium pass. And let's throw to Sutton here. So watch Sutton run his route. And it's incomplete. They just covered the play too damn well. And it's 4th and 9. So it's time to punt. I think that's enough to show you how the game works, that I don't really need to keep going. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and click menu. I'm going to click back to home screen. I'm going to pick quit and delete it. And now we're just going to sim the whole week. You'd have to click sim a second time. And you'll notice it says that Cleveland is going to lose the game. Now what we can do is we can go to the current week, go back to career home, and then I can have it send to a specific point. I can click simulate. I'm just going to tell it do the entire regular season and the playoffs so that I can go ahead and show you what the off-season looks like. So Cleveland finished 7 and 9. Pretty sure they didn't make the playoffs, and that is what happens. Now, before we get into the offseason, I want to say that the game does a really good job of seeing statistics that make a lot of sense based on the different categories here. I can look and see that Baker Mayfield threw for 5,000 yards, including 42 touchdowns. I don't think he can do that in real life, but I'm not going to question it. I do notice with some sadness that there wasn't really much in the way of running the ball. That's probably why the Browns did as poorly as they did. We can look at other stats as well. Your sack leader that's probably supposed to be Nick Bosa, would be my guess. Notice that none of Cleveland's players even got 10 sacks. BJ Perry is Myles Garrett. And, no, he's not. BJ Perry, that's 54. I don't know who that is. Yeah, Gideon is Myles Garrett. Anyways, so you'll see there's quite good statistical coverage of various things in the game. And you can always get more information on how somebody did by clicking on them and looking at their full stats. So, let's go back to Career Home and let's talk about the offseason. It is very interesting, to say the least. So right off the bat, you'll notice that some things change over the course of the season. We've gotten better at team discipline. We've gotten a little bit worse with our red zone offense. We're a whole lot better at forcing fumbles, and our stamina dropped quite a bit. We can also go through here, and we can see how players got better. In this case, Schaub got better at avoiding interceptions, for instance. I believe this is all based on statistical performance, but I'm honestly not positive. We can click on next phase. So now we get free agency. All this does is let you just basically take players. That's it. You can't really draft them. You're actually drafting them, to be honest with you. So right away you'll notice that there are no contracts in this game. Randomly, each team has certain players qualify as free agents. So I can look at the various players and I can think about where I might want to improve. A gentleman like Mr. Mickens here, for instance, would be a pretty great linebacker and a good addition. Now, will they be there by the time I pick? Who knows? I could definitely use a better kicker. I could use all kinds of things. So I have this information now. Now I can click on all done. And I can now look at the people available in the draft. When you tap to scout, it doesn't actually help you scout the player at all. It just lets you look at things in a more clear way. And so these are all the quarterbacks that are available in the draft, for instance. These are all the, if I scroll down, or sorry, if I click up here, I get to see all the halfbacks that are in the draft. I can see all the fullbacks in the draft. I can see all the tight ends. I can see all the wide receivers. This also tells us who's declared as an FA, a free agent, meaning this is someone we might want to be replacing over the course of the season. I don't know who this guy is because there's nobody that's only 18 years old in the NFL, but whatever. I'm not that concerned by it. So this is what is available in the upcoming rookie draft. I'm not seeing a ton here that would really help the team, but you can never be certain, and these players will get better over time. I can look at defense, and it looks like there are some pretty damn good corners. This seems like a good area to focus on. What's time for me to draft. And then special teams, I could definitely use a better kicker because mine is the worst. So that's that. I then click on, again, all done. And I can choose to franchise one of these players. I'm not going to bother doing that. Neither one of these players is that great. I can easily replace them in other places here. And now it's time to pick free agents, and this is how they do the draft. So I can instantly look and decide who I might want to add. Offensive lineman, there's nobody that exciting. Same for defensive lineman, but I really want help at linebacker. And there's nobody really all that great there either. There are no free agent kickers. The free agent punter isn't any better than the one I've got. There's not even much in the way of kick returners or punt returners. So really, it's fair to ask the question, do I want to sign any free agents? And I think the answer to that question is just a big fat no. I can't choose no one, can I? I just don't see anybody here. You know what? I'll take Bethel. And there's only one round, and you get to go right to draft picks. Here I could say click on Detroit, and I can say I want the first overall pick. Notice you can only trade draft picks. You cannot trade players. So I could say offer them my 2022 pick for their first round pick. So I click on Detroit. Can I get the first overall pick? You also, it actually gives you the trade value. So we should expect Detroit to refuse this. And they do, because it's not worth the same value. But that's all you can do. You can only trade draft picks. I'm not going to bother. We're picking 12th. I'm sure to get a player that could be really helpful. Here's the draft. And it's a very heavy defensive line draft, I guess. But it's my turn to pick. So, the best quarterback in the draft is still available, but he's not appreciably better than Baker Mayfield. So I'm not going to bother with that. I'm good at halfback and fullback and tight end. And I don't really need a wide receiver. I don't really see an offensive player here to get super excited about. So we're going to go ahead and switch to defense. And here's where I think we make our pick. I think we're going to go ahead and take Mr. Vega here, the linebacker. And then we hit continue until my turn. It's now the second round, and I can start picking other players. Already, we can notice that there's been a pretty significant drop-off. I would very much like to add one additional linebacker. I'm liking Zarate here because unlike the others, he's actually pretty durable. Ooh, Ragsdale's even better. Let's get him. Then I continue until my turn. Now I get to pick again. We definitely need to help a defensive back. I like Dugan here. So I'm going to draft him. And just like this. So you basically pick through all your players. I'm going to have it go and automate the rest of the draft. And now I get to decide who's going to be starters and who's just going to be cut. So it's going to automatically cut the bottom two. But I've got way worse players to cut. So we're going to cut both of them. We go to linemen. There's plenty of linemen that aren't very good, but I don't need to cut them because I'm not like too bad off. I definitely want to keep you. Although you don't have great durability, it just means you're more of a situational kind of guy. You're definitely better than, say, Emmanuel here. Please note that very stupidly, the game defaults to having all rookies cut. So make sure when you're playing the game that you don't inadvertently cut somebody that's more important. I definitely want to keep Ragsdale as well because he's super cool. And we'll even keep him. We'll get rid of these two bottom tier players. Corners. I'm definitely not getting rid of my rookie here. One thing I wish they had is I wish I had a drag and drop interface here. This can be a bit annoying, but it's not. That's not the biggest problem in the world. I never looked for kickers or punters. That was pretty dumb of me. But again, this is just purely to show you how it works. Oh yeah, that's everyone I want. I hit let's go. So the last thing you get to do is you get to do drills. You can hold, I think it's 3 mini camps, and that'll make that player better. The more points you spend, the more powerful that player gets. So, who would we like to get better? I think our quarterback is a good choice. And he's got better completing medium passes. That's great. Looking around here. Why don't we take our new rookie linebacker and train him? I mean, I'm not going to complain about him getting better at pass rush, even though it doesn't matter a huge amount. And I can't trade Vega again. I'm not allowed to. So let's go ahead and work on Gideon here. And you got better at run defense. Okay. Then I would click not Microsoft Word. I would click back. And then I would click Team Drills. You only get a certain number of points, and they have to come from somewhere else. So there's always a balance here. So let's say there's something here that I'd really like to improve on. I like my defense to get better at stopping big plays. I'm going to have to make a sacrifice in order to get better. This is one part of the game I don't really like. Because without giving the team at least some drill points, you're ensuring that there's a good chance the team will get worse. I just really don't love that. I think it's something that every team should get a fixed number of drill points, and then if they want to get extra, they can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the defense causing fumbles. I'm going to pick increasing defensive stamina. Let's even reduce ball security and also increase defensive stamina. I want to try to get that bumped if I can. So I then hit apply. And it tells me here that they decreased, but I actually gained a point in defensive stamina. Once I'm all done with all this, I can change my game plan. I can do some things here. I can hit all done, and then we're ready for a new season. And then we'll do a random schedule, and here we go with the new season. And that's it. That's what I wanted to show you guys. This is how the game works. Let's talk about what it does well and what it doesn't do well. The first thing it does extremely well is it really captures being an NFL head coach. And when I say NFL head coach, I do not mean a super coach like a Bill Belichick, who's got complete control over the entire roster. You are a coach whose only job is to call the plays on the field and manage a depth chart. That's it. And that is a really overlooked aspect of the game. You get to call all the plays, you get to make decisions, you get to do things like that. And you really feel it, much like I imagine a Kevin Stefanski does when Jarvis Landry drops a pass. When your player doesn't execute, you feel it. When your incredible touchdown play that goes for 50 yards gets called back by a penalty, you feel it. And I've never felt another game quite capture that element of football like the way this game does. There's the creativity in choosing how you want your plays to go. Or you can play in casual mode if you want. And then all you're basically doing is picking a generic play type, and then the game makes the play for you. That's where the game shines. It's at its best when you're scheming, you're looking at an opposing team, you're deciding how you want to attack them, and then watching as your team either does or doesn't execute, and then you can adjust your game plan from there. This is all really great, and it's a big piece of the reason why I'm really impressed by this game, and why I recommend it if you're looking for a very no-nonsense, no-frills, strategic coaching sim. The flip side of that, and the reason why I'm not intending on playing this game in a series, is that it's really bad for roster management. If a player gets hurt during the season, you cannot add players to the team. You have to play with whoever's left on your roster. Even a very simple free agent pool would fix that, but it really sucks when, as happened in my original season, my running back got hurt, and I had to basically play scrubs until he was healthy. And as we saw this week with Derrick Henry, there's always players you can grab that, like Adrian Peterson, for instance. There's always players available that want a shot in the NFL. And they might even be pretty good. Or like Mike White, the quarterback for the Jets. You don't really get that kind of thing in this game. If your players go down, you can't really find those hidden gems. And I think that's a missed opportunity in my eyes. The free agency system is not terrible. I don't hate it. Especially if you're not going to go through the trouble of making actual contracts. But on the other hand, it's so easy to protect your players that do become free agents that free agency isn't a reliable way to improve your team. I wish the draft was more interactive. I wish I could do scouting during the season. I wish that I had more information on what specific players are good at. I wish it wasn't automatic, that I knew everything I need to know about a player, essentially. I want the ability to put resources into scouting in a particular area so that I get the best information, maybe even find some people that other people overlook. And it's not just, oh, look, he's an 84 overall, I should draft that player. It feels, the entire season to season, like the off-season part, feels kind of tacked on. And I'm not saying that to be rude or mean or anything, but it's how it feels. It's like, it's just enough to give you a reason to play another season. But it's just missing a little bit too much, in my opinion. It's missing a little bit too much to take you from a very good game to a great game. I like the ability to improve individual players' abilities. I don't like the team drills. I really don't like the team drills, and it will almost never be worthwhile to you to invest in it. Unless there's something like, in our case, or even Sam was that bad, but even then, the difference between a 1 and a 2 isn't as big as you might think it is. I'm going to have that problem all season out, so there's nothing I can do about it. The one thing I like the least about this game is one very particular team stat. I absolutely abhor team discipline. Team discipline determines whether players make penalties. And from a simulation standpoint, I love it. From a, I'm going to coach this team and try to win games, I despise it. Because the way it works is basically, great play happens, oh wait a minute, your team has bad discipline, therefore it gets called back. And yes, that's how it works in real life, I get that. But purely from a gamification standpoint, is this fun to play? it gets to the point where if you don't turn penalties way down, if you have an undisciplined team, you're basically screwed. And it's going to cost you multiple games during the season. And that's really unfortunate, especially because there's no way to improve it during the season. That's, I think, my biggest gripe with the game as is. Now, obviously, if you have a team that has no discipline issues and your opponent does, that's a pretty big edge. I just don't think it should be as big an edge as it appears to be. But that's it. Overall, if you're looking for a pro football game to scratch your coaching itch, it's really hard to say this isn't the game for you. It could certainly be better, but purely on a game-to-game or even a season-to-season basis, this game is an incredible value for what you pay for it, and it works really, really well. I also played Tecmo Bowl when I was a kid, so I really like the graphics. It kind of makes me giggle every time I see it. And for you, you may be like, oh, I want a fancier graphical thing. And if that's the case, then there's other games that'll fill your needs. If you're looking for a GM experience, this is not the game for you. For all of its warts, I'd still recommend Front Office Football over this game for the purely GM stuff. If you want to be that super coach, that Bill Belichick, this is not the ideal game for you because, and it is what it says on the tin, right? It's about pro strategy, right? It's about making the right decisions during games. It's not about building the roster. However much that is the game that I would like to play, this game is not that. The gameplay is engaging enough that I think it does mitigate it somewhat, that the strategy, the off-season mode isn't that deep. But it's not a game that I... Given a choice between this or Madden, I would play Madden. But it's a lot closer than I thought it would be when I first bought the game. And even as I was playing through the season, this game, at its core, makes you feel what a head coach feels on the sideline. I've never coached a sport in my life. I haven't even played sports since I was a preteen, regularly. But watching your quarterback overthrow the wide receiver, watching the quarterback not react quickly enough and making the right decision, like, you feel it. And it's a really cool feeling, and I'm glad they were able to capture that. I'm glad that Carey did such a great job with that. Yeah. So that's it for this Let's Look of Pro Strategy Football 2022. Feel free to check it out on Steam. I will post a link in the description. Although I don't plan on doing a series based on this, I could definitely see a short series for like a Football 101 kind of thing, because I think this game is fantastic for teaching you how football works, what the rules are, and all the different positions and things like that. If that's something you think would be interesting, go ahead and drop a link in the comments, or just say, hey, give us that Football 101 series. I tried it with Front Office Football, and I think it was a little bit difficult for people to follow. So this is exactly the kind of game that I think would work really well for that. That's all I want to say about this game. Please stay tuned to Twitter, and I will talk about what's coming next. In what's going to be the Tuesday slot, I said it on Thursday this week because I forgot. But it will be the Tuesday slot going forward, so be on the lookout for that, and I'll announce what game is coming back. Until next time, though, this has been Avindian. Thank you for watching, and I bid you good day.